Welcome to Corporate Caffeine. I'm Dacia Coffey. As a chief marketing officer, speaker, author, copywriter, and three-time entrepreneur, I've learned a thing or two about influence and impact in the business world. So I want to share with you what I've learned about how to be heard, be seen, and be successful, and introduce you to the people I've met along the way who learned how to unlock their potential. Brayden Coffey, welcome to Corporate Caffeine.
Glad to be here.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little bit weird talking to my parents on a podcast, but here I am.
I'm super excited. You know what's so funny is I probably prepped for this one more than any of the other guests we've had because I just take it for granted talking to you. And I was like, I need to really think through this interview.
Well, that doesn't take much for me because my prepping has been non-existent pretty much. And I'm going to make it a point to when we do have people on to start prepping a little bit. So I did write down a few questions. We'll see if we get to them.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Let's leave with mom's questions.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Dad asks good questions.
And you know, out of everyone we
Yeah.
know, like any family members or anyone we know close, he's been the first one to ask, hey, when am I coming on the podcast? We're like, I thought it was.
Well, I didn't ask directly. It was kind of like y'all brought it up, and Mom brought it up having the boys on. And I was like, well, you know, I live at home. I could just come on whenever. So
Okay,
and then that's kind of made.
I love it.
Here I
So
am.
why were you willing to? Like, what made you go, that sounds fun. Like, I'll do it.
Oh, I mean, I listen to podcasts every once in a while. It just sounds like, or seems like a fun thing to just experience. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know really much about it, so here I am.
So tell everybody about yourself. Why are you at home? You graduated high school?
I
last year?
graduated high school. Didn't get into A&M, unfortunately, so I went to TCC, got a job at Lonesome Dove. No free promo, so but got a job at Lonesome Dove, making money, living at home, going to TCC, yeah. That's why I'm here.
What's your plans in college? Are they still what we talked about 3 months ago?
Probably, I assume so, yeah. Major in psychology, maybe get a minor in something. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, we'll see. I'm not 100% on what career path I'm going to choose yet, but I've got a few ideas.
Why psychology?
It's just something that always has interested me. Getting to know the brain, understanding why people are who they are, I guess, like behavioral traits and humans that are like, I guess, common across all the animal kingdom. Like we do the same things like dogs do. We do the same things that fish do, like just different types of things that just interest me.
Speaking of, I'm dying for you to read or listen to the Jordan Peterson book, 12 Rules of Life. And the very first one's about lobster, speaking of like consistency.
Well, that's like the third or fourth time in a week I've heard Jordan Peterson. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's a sign for me. Because Cole brought it up the other day. Because I guess y'all watch a documentary or whatever. So
Yeah, he and I watched a documentary on Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Really well. I follow him anyway, and I'm listening to his audiobook that you just brought up, and it's really hard for me to follow. You have to be paying attention. It's something, audiobooks, usually I can walk the dog, work out, do something, and get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Not with Jordan Peterson. He's talking in his voice, and now I get it. Whenever he does podcasts with somebody, no matter how smart they are, you get a little bit of a break whenever he's not talking to absorb what he said. When you listen to his book, you don't get any of that. I find myself hitting pause,
that's why I like
rewinding
to
it.
listen to podcasts or audiobooks in the car, just because I'm driving. Driving is not very
Engaging.
I shouldn't say it, but it's not a very engaging task.
Yep, I
It's
agree.
just something mundane that you just do every day and you don't really think about. So if you get something that engages your brain while you're driving, it just, for me, it makes it easier.
Totally agree. So I think we are starting again to family speak a little bit. So again, for the audience, all right, talk to everybody about where you are in the family, how old you are.
I'm the baby, the youngest twin, little old Brayden over here. I'm just kidding. I got a twin, 1 minute older than me. He's actually in the room right now. We got a live audience, everybody. So if you hear any laughing or anything, because
Heckling.
we're quite funny over here, I'd say. But if you hear anything, that's probably Austin. But yeah, we got an older brother, Cole. Yeah, he's up in Arkansas. And we got a recent addition, Liam. I'd say as a brother. He's in the Army, North Carolina. He's doing good.
Absolutely. And then, so talk a little bit about what did you do in high school? Kind of like who are you known as, like whether from your friends or like kind of what do you think your persona is? And, also how'd you spend your time? Like, so people kind of have a context of like, oh, this kid's into A, B, and C, whatever.
That's an interesting question, actually. So I don't know exactly, just because it's myself, and I like to think some people think of me in different ways or whatever. But I think I was one of the louder, I wouldn't say louder, but more like present individuals in like a classroom or in a friend group or but like I wouldn't have to talk to be kind of like felt, you know what I mean? So like if a teacher gave a question, I wouldn't necessarily have to answer, but I'd input feedback and stuff like that. So I'd like to think I was one of those kids that was like, okay, he knows what's going on, like whether he's the smartest kid or not, like he kind of has a gist of what's going on, goes with the flow of everything. But I think also another thing is my persona in high school kind of changed, and for the good, I'd say, because as a freshman I realized, oh, I feel like I'm talking too much, I'm talking over people, and I tried to like dial that down a little bit. So
Well, that's good that you recognize that.
Yeah, that's really self-aware, especially for a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
So I spoke to your brothers the other day, and they considered you like straight-laced. Oh, that's Brayden. What do you mean by that? He's different than the rest of the family. More conservative.
I could see that, actually. So that's another thing, like
They were calling you out. That's what they were doing.
Yeah, I bet.
But coming from those
Shocking
two,
in our family.
yeah,
believe it or
you're
not,
doing
it's
good.
crazy.
You're doing good.
So I could see that, just because if we happen to go out as like family, or like if I'm with Austin and Cole and we are, for instance, playing volleyball or whatever at the park or something like that, they're always like the ones to be like, oh, let's jump in the pond or something. This is just like theoretical, but I'm just saying, like, that is something that I would not put past them. Like even $5, you can jump in that pond. They'd be like, okay, they're already in it. Like, you know what I mean? But I guess
Sounds like their mother.
Yeah, I guess like for them saying that I'm straight laced is a point at like I wouldn't exactly do it for $5. Maybe like give me $25, I'd be in that pond. Like, believe it or not, I was asked Caskey, I'm like, how much money you want to give me today when I was playing golf? Didn't shoot too well, don't ask, but I said, how much money do you give me to jump in that lake? And he didn't come up with a number fast enough, so I didn't end up doing it. But yeah, so I guess the straight lace comes from that. But the other day, Eduardo at work, one of my coworkers, he came up to me. He was like, English is his second language, so Spanish is his first, English is second. I guess he just grew up like that in his household and whatnot. And he's like, how do you learn all these like big words or whatever? I'm like, and I don't picture myself as one that's very in depth with their vocabulary, such as you or even Dad has very rich vocabulary, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he said that, and I was like, that's interesting. But like I don't know that the vocabulary that I use is very like in depth. So I was like, that's interesting. So
Well, and I think I would add, you always seem confident, from the outside, looking in. I think whatever role you've played in groups, you're confident. You come from a sports background, you played sports, always, and so, I think that's a key component for people to understand about you too, that's kind of the background that you came up with. In school, generally speaking, comes easy to you. Like, you do not struggle. You're not the kid that is really turning inside out to figure things out. That's something that kind of came naturally to you, is book smarts.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, what did you say? What was the first part? I was going to say something on top of that. You said
Confident.
Oh yeah, confidence. That's like another thing I tried to build on, because I realized in, I guess, middle school and early high school years, like, my confidence wasn't all there, and confidence is a big thing. Like, you see someone that's confident, you're like, okay, they kind of, I get, it goes back to what they're saying, like straight laced, like they figure something out. So I try to come off as confident to seem like just better than I am, and as a person. I don't know if that sounds cocky or whatever, but
No, I think I have intentionally worked on confidence my entire life. Like, how can I step into that authentically? And some people will be mad about this, but I am a big believer about fake it till you make it.
Oh,
Because if you embody what you want to become, it will trick your brain into orienting and changing and evolving. So I really appreciate that. But, one example is, a couple years ago, I remember seeing this woman, and, she's a curvy woman, and she's not by any means like stereotypical looking, right? Like, she's not the kind of person that you would see in any sort of catalog or model or, cover. And her confidence and charisma was so big that I'm watching her on stage and I'm like, God, I love this woman. Like, I was like, I want to be her friend. And there was not a single ounce of me that judged anything about her negatively. I thought she was stunningly beautiful. I loved her style, even if it's not my style. Loved how she pulled herself together. Loved what she had to say. Even her quirkiness, or if she misspoke, right? Like, didn't have perfect words. Loved everything about her. And I learned so much about myself and about what confidence does, realizing like, that confidence basically eliminated all judgment out of my perception of her, because she was so confident in her own skin that it made me appreciative of her just as she was, like no comparison. And I was like, man, that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, walking with your shoulders up, and back, that makes a world of difference. Just down the street without even saying anything to anybody, looking them in the eyes. That type of thing. But when you said fake it till you make it, people can call BS pretty quick. Once you have a knowledge of a certain subject or topic or whatever it may be, and know how to talk about it a little bit, there's a part of an energy level and confidence that can get you through a little bit. But you have the personality, I guess the majority of us in our family do. Once we start talking about something, we start learning more about it. And we start trying to master that task or that subject pretty quick, to where, wait a minute, we're not faking it long. We have an idea and we just keep on learning more and more about it.
Really good point. I agree that there is no fake it until you make it publicly around your knowledge and skill set. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be braggadocious and be like, oh, I know everything about this, and you really only have a shallow. So for me, like, the fake it till you make it is the emotional component, like the belief in yourself, like the psychology of carrying you forward, that you can challenge yourself to do things, or who you are in a room, like that kind of thing. Like, oh, I don't feel up to this. Well, change your feelings. And I really believe you can change your feelings through your physicality. I mean,
right.
Research shows that, but I mean, even in my experience, I mean, your feelings don't control you. They're not your truth. And so you can say, I'm going to feel different. Like, I'm going to put those feelings aside. I'm going to do something to turn me around, emotionally, and put the best face forward. And I do think like you can change that brain chemistry. But you're right. Like, I agree. Like, you can only fake mastery or skill for like a very short amount of time.
To go back to high school, he's only been out now for almost a year. What would you have changed?
Oh,
I know you did try to improve a quality of your life that you're like, man, this will help me in the long run. But what would you have changed looking back?
I don't know. I am a big believer in this is done for a reason. So whatever it is, it's just built upon whether God put you in that position for the good or for the just betterment of yourself, whether that's like you being harmed from it then versus like growing on it now and stuff like that. So I don't know that I changed much. I guess in my earlier years, I probably would have been more social. But saying that, I think, I know. I was about to say, like, saying that, like, I have a good tight knit group of friends that just went out throughout high school that nobody really had. So that just kind of was I don't know. I don't know if I'd change anything.
That's really cool. Great. That is really cool.
You brought up God and something that he just went through. That's why I was leading into that. What was it called? 75 and I or 75
hard?
Hard. Talk about that and how and what did that do for you?
And for the record, this is something that as much as I would want to, I really would not make it more than
Yeah, it
5
sucks.
days.
It's huge.
75
40 days of
days.
Lent is hard
Yeah.
for her and I for some things.
So yeah,
Alcohol.
for those that don't know, 75 Hard is I guess it's a workout program, self betterment program,
Yeah,
whatever.
there you go.
Yeah.
You work out twice a day. One has to, for 45 minutes each. One has to be outside. Gallon of water every day. You go on a diet. Read 10 pages of a book every day. I might be missing something.
Okay, so you picked the Bible then.
I did pick the
Okay,
Bible.
that's where I thought it had to do with something to do with workout, religion, routine. So you just picked the Bible.
I picked the Bible. Well,
Okay.
because senior year of high school, I was like, I realized to myself, like, oh, I haven't read the New Testament in its entirety. I was like, I haven't really read the Bible much at all. So I was like, I kind of want to pick it back up. And going into 2023, I hadn't worked out at all since high school, like being in baseball and stuff like that. And I hadn't read the Bible, even though I like told myself, like, you need to start reading the Bible, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, what is this? And I just came across 75 Hard, and I was like, okay, one, that'll get me in better shape than I am right now and make me feel more confident, like you were saying. And it'll force me to read the Bible and gain the spiritual knowledge on that. So I was like, okay, this is something I want to look into. And then I just committed to it. I found it on like Thursday or Wednesday or whatever, and just thought, okay, I'm going to start Monday. So
It's huge. I did not read the Bible all the way through until I was in my late 20s. Best case scenario, it would have been late 20s. You guys were little. So, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, so was anything different or surprising, like when you actually went to the source versus what you've heard in church or what people say the Bible is? Like, was it different than you expected it to be?
I don't know. It's weird to say, but I don't know, because in church we go through the readings and we do the sermon and stuff like that. But as you said once before, like our church is a very healing church rather than like we still spread the word, but we're more of a healing church. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're not like capital E evangelical.
Yeah.
Whether that's good or
So
bad
then,
or
like,
not. Yeah.
Seeing Father Ron's point of view on his version of the Bible, which is, I guess, just the Bible in general, but like what he brings of it and what I brought of it was like different things. And so reading the Bible and also like going to church and seeing the sermons that on what I just read, like the two different point of views was very interesting, and it gave me a lot of insight on how different the Bible is and how many lessons there are, believe it or not. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many layers, and I agree, because what jumps out at me might be something so different than
Yeah,
what's brought
it's
up in
different for
church,
everybody.
or, like what somebody else might have interpreted, or not interpreted, but what received.
Yeah, because
from that,
God
like,
speaks to people differently. Like,
Yes.
one passage might touch me differently than it touches you. Like, one thing that really stuck out for me in the whole New Testament when I went through that, it was in the beginning. I don't know if it's in Mark or in Matthew. He says that something about judgment, where like if you judge someone, they'll judge you back twice as hard. And so that really stuck out to me. So after reading that, I was like, okay, I need to be better on judging. And I felt, and like when I just, because humans instantly make that quick judgment, whether you like realize it or not. It's just in that just human nature for people to judge. And so I make that natural judgment, as humans always do. And I realized, like, once I slowed down, I was like, why am I judging them? Like, they're probably judging me back. So like,
Yeah.
there's not really any point. Like, what is this doing for me? It's not bettering me. It's not helping them. It's just,
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because, something you said earlier, like people are so sensitive to things that you do sense when someone's judging you,
Yeah.
especially judging you negatively, and then that you would magnify it. That's so true. Like if I feel somebody's being critical of me, and it could be somebody as close as you, like to me, or it could be a stranger. And the second I feel like, or assume that that's happening, I agree. Like I immediately do the opposite of what I did with that woman who had the confidence. I mean, I do amplify that. Man, that's interesting.
I'm still very judgmental. I admit it. Like, it's not a good trait to have, but I catch myself doing that a lot and trying to correct myself afterwards. Sometimes it's too late, but it's embedded in our DNA. Mm-hmm. It really is, and there aren't many people you run across that don't judge. And when you do, something special stands out about them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's interesting, though, that you say that about yourself, because I would say that you're judging yourself harshly, because I think there's a lot of nuance.
Well, I didn't mean just everyone else. It involves you as well, or me
good
as
point.
well, judging myself.
Well said, because you are wildly accepting, and you make some interesting, unusual friendships, like with people so different, so diverse, from such different backgrounds from you. You know, that's always been really cool to get to be like, you know, like ride your coattails on, because you're so open-minded when it comes to certain types of judgment. Like, they just don't. But then you are also very aware of your surroundings. And so you have a high level of alert around danger, lying, you know, I mean, like anything that could be dangerous emotionally or physically. And so, and there's, you know, I mean, you have to judge for that.
To Brayden's point, though, you have to work at that.
Yeah.
You know, you still sense it.
Yeah.
Even though I may have those qualities.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So what would you have changed in high school? Like, when you look back, who were you? And like, you know, I mean, like when you're
first of all, I'm going to have to air who I was.
Do we want that out?
There's a lot of things that, you know, I tried to point the finger at so many different people and, you know, just didn't work on myself. I didn't, definitely didn't live up to my full potential in high school. And it would have really changed the outcome of who I would have been now, I think. But, you know, you live those ways for a reason, and all you can do is correct them later in life.
Yeah.
Or all you can do is be better from them. Like Brayden said, you know, God put us there for a certain reason and had us make those choices, whether good or bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
To form you who you are now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think my big thing is I was not brave in high school, and it still irritates the living crap out of me to think about how many things I wouldn't go for. But then, to your point, it's informed so much about what I decided once I was in college, and once I decided about adulthood, you know, I mean, I became really aware of the role that fear played in my life, and be like, oh, you get out of my way. And when I say you, I mean fear, you know, like you need to get out of my way. But I was not brave. But that was like a long journey. It started being aware of the brave thing and not being who I wanted to be in middle school, and started evolving. But it still really held me back in high school. Although probably my high school friends would be surprised to hear me say that. I don't think
I'm surprised to hear you say that.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure Austin can attest to this too. But like both of y'all, I've always known you as like very confident people. Like you just say what's on your mind. What I think is when we're just sitting around the dinner table, we're always just like hollering, hooping, doesn't matter what's going on.
Yeah.
Like we're always just throwing it. You know what I mean? But yeah,
well,
it's interesting. I do remember.
I think we're a pretty open family.
Oh yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah, I do remember Mom. In our younger ages, this was like when we were real little. I remember you talking about to me about like you always are. God has one word for me, and one of the words was fear one year. And I remember you talking about that, so it's interesting, like bringing that back and hearing you talking about overcoming that fear.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. That's how long ago that was. That's awesome.
You know, you've wanted to study, and you are studying psychology. You know, I guess that role later in life, no matter what type of job you have or if somehow you work for yourself, it's going to involve other people. It's going to be a lot of one-on-one, I'm sure, or whatever that may look like. And her and I chose a wild path when it comes to our business and our businesses and so forth. But what did you think about the path we took? This is called corporate.
Very unconventional, I'd say. But it was interesting, like, because we grew up with our dad in the oil field, and that was, I assume, hard on everybody, but not that big of an impact on us because we don't really remember it. But
so young.
I assume like y'all both were like, oh, it's so hard because him being away and you having to take care of us and stuff like that. But it was interesting growing up because seeing all the battles that you fought through, like when you first started Blender, going through that lawsuit and all that stuff like that. And very resilient to everything that's come your way. So I guess for us, it's almost like inspirational seeing both of y'all like build this thing that y'all started in your bedroom. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. Yeah, very cool.
We hit a big
and now y'all are here. So
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because if Mark Fratto, who's been on Corporate Caffeine before, is listening to this, he is dying laughing because he and his wife still owned their company at the time, and they have a story where, I had the blender screen to have a professional background, and you boys were behind it, and he could see y'all's shadows behind the screen, but I couldn't, like on how the computer. But that was one of his favorite stories.
They were 9.
Like, oh my God.
yeah, we were real.
Yeah.
They were 9 when you started.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Your 10 years is coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt
Actually,
like
just passed.
I feel like
it's on the
last
20
year was 7
No, it
No.
hasn't. It's on the 25th or 3rd.
of
Of
May.
April. I know, we didn't celebrate. We should have.
I know. What's with the
I
10?
thought it is April.
Yeah,
Dang
it's
it.
April. I know. That's all right. We can always bring a celebration back. We need to. I'm
Vacation?
terrible about that.
10-year vacation.
We've been traveling enough lately.
Yeah, y'all have.
Oh,
Me and
my
Austin are
goodness.
sitting over.
We're going to Colorado soon. That's
Yeah,
gonna
that's
we
gonna be
haven't
great.
been
That's
back in
gonna
a
be
while. We haven't been there as a family and since before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
you know what? I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead. It's one thing that right now I'm realizing, why didn't I take you on any of the trips this past year? You were home. Like, I probably
Yeah,
could
but
have
with
just
school and
grabbed
work. School
you,
and
but
work
school
and
and
all
work,
that.
yeah, you worked a
I
lot
could've-
too.
Oh, and which one are you going to take me to? Milwaukee? Like what? Like all the
point.
winter ones were
I know.
freezing cold and windy, and you were. I'm not no hate, but like you were in Chicago and stuff like that, where
In
it's
February.
freezing cold. and
Exactly.
Yeah, it was freezing.
I'll stay down here where it's like 60 degrees in the winter.
Exactly. Good point. Okay, so Dad is probably going to roll his eyes at this question, but it's talked about so much. Okay, so I even looked this up. I think you are basically dead smack in the beginning of Gen Z. So yeah,
The
So-
big sigh from Dad over there.
he hates these generation conversations.
I
He
just-
Yeah, well, we
hates them.
talked about him on Mother's Day like a few days ago, so I could see why.
No, he hates it all the
I
time too,
know.
though.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna ask it, of course.
Yeah.
To put a whole decade full of people in one bucket, silly. I get that the characteristics.
It makes sense, but
and
at the same
get
time, I know what you're saying.
Overall, generally speaking, they have these tendencies. But I meet so many young people who don't fit those stereotypes.
Yeah.
And it's like that through everybody who's thrown in a bucket, no matter what age.
No, it's a great point.
Baby
on that.
boomers. Oh, you do this, you do that. Then you turn around and then you meet a good one. I'm just joking. I'm just
Oh,
joking.
boy.
I'm just talking.
But yeah, I mean,
talking
and it's a
smack.
good point. So that was going to be my question to you is, do you actually think there's a consistency around your generation, or are you more like, you know what, it's just really convenient for everybody to say anybody 26 and under, or whatever age, 25 and under, something like that?
I actually think there's some consistency there. I'm not 100% sure because I only know what I grew up like in Keller and whatnot.
Yeah.
So knowing that, and I can see some consistency growing with that and the millennials. I don't know past that because
Yeah, well, because we're old compared
you're
to you.
old.
So, okay, so what do you think those consistencies are? Or are you like, I can just feel them. I don't know. how to
I
name them.
think Gen Z, we get a bad rep just because like all social media and stuff like that, we're very technology oriented for the good or the bad. But I think we get a bad rep. I think this is a bold statement, but I think we're going to be the generation that has to fix everything. I think we're going to have to solve a lot of the problems that generations before us have created, like the millennials and the Gen X and all that stuff like that. So I think it'll be interesting to see what we do when we get to 30, 40, 50 years old.
You're going to, or already are, you're being gifted, we'll use that word really loosely, with all of the ethical dilemmas of technology going too fast and like people not being thoughtful around the role that technology will have socially. So that's going to be interesting.
I think as Gen Zers, I guess, we were put in we were pressured very early on through school and stuff like that because they're always talking about like, oh, there's so much trash, like air pollution's going on, like it's all going bad, like climate change is bad. So they put that in us, like during school and growing up and stuff like that. So I feel like we're pressured to have to think outside the box on how to change this, how to change that.
That does
like
need
how to start
change.
fixing stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say it's environmental just as much as technology, you know.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to bring up, though, as far as technology goes, you guys were almost born with it for the most part. To a certain
Definitely.
extent.
No, definitely. They'll be
You
the
don't
first
ever-
true digital natives.
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Where do you guys see, what's AI going to do?
I don't know on AI. It's all like, I'm going to say I hate it just because,
Oh, really?
yeah, it's just annoying to deal with and stuff like that. I haven't had a lot of work with it. I just think it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what it's capable of. No one really does. But I think technology as a whole, I'm not just saying like AI in general, but like technology as a whole is going to be for the benefit, whether we like it or not. So it is going to be the key to solving a lot of our problems. But right now, it is a lot of the problem.
Well, and I think there's like a stewardship component. We're talking about the Bible, but like I don't think anybody's talking about stewarding technology, stewarding change. So I think that's interesting. Technically speaking, every time there has been a massive technological shift where it was going to replace people, actually it increased prosperity and did not replace people. It increased employment opportunities.
Yeah, I don't think AI is going to replace
and
people
opportunities.
anytime soon. I think we'll be fine.
So this was interesting. I came across a thing where they were saying generations, instead of age and similarities, are oftentimes better categorized around the key things that influence that generation. And so I thought that was such an interesting thought. So like, for instance, we're Gen X. And so MTV was a huge one. And then also the proliferation, like total explosion of different musical types of genres, like like changed social norms and such. And so that was a big one. And then you'll laugh about this one, Kyle. Latchkey kids. Do you remember that phrase?
Oh, yeah.
Because we were the first generation where we would come home and there wasn't necessarily a parent at home.
Both parents started working.
Oh,
a lot.
yeah. When y'all had keys to the house when they were going to school and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Baby boomers, both parents were working a lot. Before that generation, it was typical for the mother to stay home.
Yeah. And so then the millennials, they were old enough to remember 9/11. So, and they were young. So that formed like how they saw the world. And then they were coming of age when Obama was elected in 2008. And so they saw that change in the world and, you know, all of the language around that and the first Black president. And then almost all of them graduated into a workforce recession. And so, you know, I mean, you can say whatever you want to about millennials, but it was the last real significant employment decrease where it just wasn't easy to get a job. So that was interesting.
It seems like their generation, especially kids coming out of college right now, aren't excited about working for these big companies right away. They're looking into more independent things, something that can make money for themselves, something that can advance their careers. I don't hear
Side hustles.
Like, kids just older than Cole coming out going, man, guess where I just landed a job. Even when we were, coming out of college and all those things, people were proud to work for certain. It's like they're going to take care of you forever. Well, we've learned real quick that's not the case. Kind of showed that, we're just going to dump the workforce and can come back later.
The people graduating right now going to the workforce are more doers rather than just role players.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put that. I love that.
So they're trying to find ways because of the pressure and all that we've been put on, or that's been put on us from everything that's happened and everything that's going on with the very heavy news, like this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, rather than just like, I don't know. But yeah, I think the pressure of that is kind of driving that.
Yeah.
Of trying to find something new, trying to do this. Like you have to find solutions for whatever. So those solutions have turned into, let me make something of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting point of view.
That's one thing I like about their generation too. You brought up, you had a bad rap because of social media and so forth, as far as your generation. And I'm like, but if you look at the positive on that, how many kids make their own brand and make millions of dollars before they're 20 years old by just keeping consistent, persistent, and just stayed after it until they made it happen. And I'm like, you know what? Good for them.
And that's a lot of work. Like,
And
anybody
it's a lot
wants
of
to say
work.
that that's
Yeah.
lazy, that is not lazy. It is a lot of work. Like,
Yeah, I think back in y'all's day,
you're fine to say that. It was a long
back in
time
y'all's
ago
day,
compared
y'all,
to you.
y'all bring up, I don't know, this is just like Gen Z talking about parents in general. They bring up, oh, we went to work at a very young age, blah, 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 blah. They always like, oh, we got jobs early. But us, we have access to technology where we could find ways to build things. We could find ways to do different things to, I guess, make money if you want to, because there's always going to be the doers in every generation.
So
Yeah.
true.
So those doers are just looking at different ways rather than going to work at McDonald's for minimum wage. Or not saying that's bad, but I'm just saying, like, we're looking at different ways to do different things and find different sources of money, I guess, rather than just
Totally.
filling roles.
Totally. Okay. And so for Gen Z, as the wrap up, of course, one of the number one things is that the very
hold
first
on.
iPhone.
We've got somebody just
Oh, yeah.
interrupted the
No,
the
it's
podcast.
fine.
No, I told him to.
Is it better?
okay.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
getting
you can,
hot.
No, I know. Can you feel it now?
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Okay. Okay. So
For those
who don't know,
audio
his
listeners,
his twin brother
before
walks
the
on set.
podcast, I moved the plant in front of this vent because I was getting freezing cold. So I'm currently
we're probably
getting
gonna
hot.
cut this part. It's no big deal.
I'm going to finish anyway.
Okay.
I was getting hot, so I asked him to move the plant. So now I feel better, much better. Okay, this is a question that is for the statistical part of this podcast. Do you know, like, the stats versus visual versus audio listeners? Like
I need to dive.
YouTube versus Spotify?
more into
Just on
that.
our podcast?
Yeah.
Definitely YouTube. Blows
You
away.
got more viewers than listeners?
blows away Podbean.
Really?
Any type of
versus
podcast.
Spotify and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
No,
Okay,
we,
It's easier to rank. People can find us easier. It's you go onto YouTube.
Yeah.
I use
is
it now
easier
as a
to
Google
rank.
search for a lot of things. If I know I'm going to get a quicker answer, or better content, or know how to fix something or do something, I go straight to YouTube.
it makes sense.
Now that she started the Marketing Blender show with Daisy, they're doing things just on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And they can go to that channel. Well, I'm plugging you kind of here, but they can go
Feel
whatever
free,
they're
babe.
looking for, blah 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 in marketing. There it is, and it will
Yeah.
start populating keywords
That
and
makes
so
sense.
forth.
I was just curious about
Yeah.
that. I was thinking that it was like, because I was listening to it on Spotify. That's where I tend to listen to my podcast. I was like,
Yep.
oh, this is interesting. I wonder how
Yeah.
many people actually do this rather than watch
I
them.
do as well. Listen to most of my podcasts, almost all of them on Spotify,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of those people are big names already.
Yeah.
they can hold their own
And those
on
podcasts, yeah.
platforms,
On
and
YouTube, you
they're
could-
just to listen to.
And Spotify, you can't go
well,
viral. So YouTube, you could go viral. Like, they will
Yeah.
populate your stuff if they find that interesting.
Right,
It's
right.
very, like, political, whether you like it or not on
Yeah.
YouTube. So
Yeah.
and you could catch a good wave or the bad wave.
That's right. Absolutely. We have not unlocked how to do paid promotion on the audio only. I mean, so that's a big part of it too,
Yeah.
because you can pay to play on
Yeah.
YouTube. So, okay. So one of the things I was bringing up, just to wrap the generation conversation up, and then we'll move on. But for Gen Z, 2007 was the first iPhone. So that is the major significant thing, that everything went mobile starting then. And so you guys grew up in a mobile landscape because, I mean, you're just starting to come into elementary school. And so that was always, and that turned into an always on lifestyle, like total and constant connectivity. And then obviously the final one that accelerated that was, so I
I
mean, it'll be a
think-
defining factor for you guys. Oh, there's one more too.
I think there's like a gap in Gen Z. There's like the before the iPhone. So like from 2007 down to like, I don't know, 1997, 98, something like that. And then up. So that after iPhone, just because of the accessibility. Because we grew up, we didn't get our first phone till like 6th grade, 5th grade.
Probably about that. 10
Yeah,
years old.
so then
that was
we
our
were like,
rule.
yeah, so we didn't always, we weren't the always on. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still pretty early, but
Yeah, exactly. Still really early though. Like we're mobile phones, like you and all your friends.
But now-
were, when are we getting our phone?
yeah. But now there's elementary kids with like the newest iPhone and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine.
No, exactly.
Yeah, ours is mainly for communication.
Yeah. Well, we started off with like the little Blackberries and stuff like that, and the little slidey phones. And
Yep.
Yeah.
And all of you guys testing them out and how damage proof they were once we were done with them.
Yeah.
So one other fun fact, Gen Z is the most racially diverse generation of all time.
It makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Which is
Well, it
so
should
interesting
be.
and cool. And it should be, absolutely.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, just that's
Well,
an
just the
interesting
parents
thing.
and stuff like that.
And then one of the other things, and I am not going to slide into a political conversation around this, but the legalization of gay marriage has dictated so much of the social and political conversations that it came up in a lot of articles that it will be a key factor around like what formed this generation was navigating the social changes that came along with that. So
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Like,
We shall see.
This is like
Right,
the
but-
woke generation. Well, not woke. We're going through the woke.
yeah, times. And so everybody's trying to figure
We
out
aren't the
what they
woke
think about
ones.
it.
I think that's the millennials.
I agree with that.
I
do
think
not
we are
Gen
the-
Z are woke.
I guess the target of the wokeness.
Yeah, maybe. Oh no, I figured it was us.
Well, no, because there's not that many. Not to be rude or anything, just that many like famous people now.
Yeah.
Like older, like you got the
Yeah.
Jennifer Lopez, you got the, of course, like the
No, right.
Jennifer Aniston, like the actors and stuff like that. But there's
Yeah.
not in the news anymore. It's always like the Gen Z people and like even like people from 30 plus aren't in the news anymore.
Yeah.
It's just what's
True.
what's trending.
Yeah, it
on
doesn't matter
TikTok,
what they
what's going
say.
on. Yeah.
That is so,
Yeah.
so true.
you know, to the younger generation. Speaking of the news, it's been going on a while, and everyone's basically, you almost can't even trust watching what you see. Where do you find news, what you would consider news, and what do you look for, or and what do you believe and not believe in the whole media charade that's
interesting.
going on right now?
Me personally, I'm not into the news that much. I'm not going to watch like Fox or CBS or whatever, NBC or
Yeah.
whatever, CNN, whatever news is on.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I guess TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, I don't have Instagram, but Instagram, that's where you get news. And then for me, if I see something that like, oh, what? Like something's interesting or just like kind of stuck out to me, I'll look into it and
You'll dig into it on your own.
yeah, I won't.
Yeah.
I don't just like
Take it.
see it and just go. I just like look into it and see like what's actually going on here. And most of the time, it's just nothing. Because
Do you think you're rare, or do you think most people don't take things for face value at your age? You know how you catch those clips. And you're
yeah,
like,
I don't know.
Look at so and so. They're this.
I guess
that.
it depends on the source. So if you were to see something that was posted by CBS or whatever, I guess more people would take that just straight up than with a grain of salt than if some nobody on TikTok with 2 million followers was just jabbering about nothing. So I don't really know though.
Yeah.
News isn't really that big of a thing now. It will be probably later whenever politics starts becoming a big deal or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So looking into the future, like a couple different intervals, 1 to 2 years from now,
Oh boy.
5 to 7 years from now, 10 to 15 years from now. Like, so those kind of different intervals. What are you excited about?
So long term, I'm excited for a family and stuff like that. Excited for having my own house and stuff like that with a family. I guess like the people I'm gonna meet, that's exciting. Or like the people I'm gonna stay friends with, that's exciting. Like I don't know what's gonna go on during these however 7-10 years. But yeah. I don't know. Life's moving fast right now. I've already finished. I'm a sophomore in college now.
Can you believe it?
No, it's crazy. This is like the fastest year ever.
You only got 3
It's a
years
normal-
left.
I know. The freshman
wanna
year
get
in
your
high school
doctorate.
went so slow. Now we're just pacing through it and You gotta slow down. What's going on?
No,
I
not
don't
good.
like
Does
it.
not slow down. That's
I
the
know.
bad news.
I'm on the
So
back end of life.
So you plan on going to A&M? You still plan on going to Corps Cadets?
Yeah, if I were to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 100%. I know it's not the same because I'm a transfer or whatever, but yeah.
It will. No
Yeah,
one will know
I'll
that.
still get all the hazing and all that, which I'm actually excited for.
guys are so weird.
I think it's just me in general, but
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, what about in the interim? Like, what are you excited about for your 20s besides turning 21?
I guess the experiences. I think 20s will be like the age gap of where I'll experience the most things, whether that's like travel, like find jobs, like I don't know what it entails. I just think it's going to be the age of experiences.
Yeah.
Do you
So-
think you'll make it a point to travel
I hope
certain
so.
times of the year, like certain?
I hope so. Yeah.
Like you're gonna put it down on your calendar. You know, some people get bad about that.
It took us
Yeah.
a
Her
long
and I
time
were
to do
like,
that.
okay, we have to have a budget just for this, and just make it a point to sit down and book trips rather than.
Yeah.
We'll get to it when we can. We've been lazy sometimes about it. And like this year, we're like, no, we're doing it. Let's book it.
Yeah. I hope I do.
Yeah,
I
where
hope
would
I
you
do.
want to go visit? Where would be the one place you'll want to go?
Straight
Like,
off the bat, Iceland.
Oh,
Iceland.
Yeah, I want to go see
So
the
cool.
Aurora Borealis or whatever you say, the Northern Lights.
Oh yes.
And then I
you
heard-
want to see
I've
them
seen-
from Iceland then?
Yeah,
Not-
well, and like all the glaciers and the waterfalls and all that
Yeah.
natural scenery there, I've heard is like out of the world, like the best in the world or
Yeah.
whatever. But that, I want to go to Greece, of course, just because it's apparently beautiful. Yeah, Japan's I've heard is incredible. Like that's what they like Tokyo and stuff like that. It's just absolutely insane. Like the technological advances that they have and how I don't know, but yeah, Tokyo would be cool.
Okay, I have a weird question. What advice would you give, not to me and dad, because we won't be able to take it, but generally speaking, to parents? You know, like parents
Parents?
of teenagers, parents of college.
Oh no, I can
age.
take it.
Well, I
Shoot.
just mean like we're kind of already down this pathway.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Nothing.
I don't
comes to
know.
mind.
Like advice as parents.
Yeah, what would you advise
I
parents?
feel like
from a young person
as a college kid,
Yeah.
me and my brothers are just kind of our own individuals. Like we're just living our lives right at this point. Like it's not like high school where I have to keep in touch and whatever, but or not. Well, we're always going to keep in touch. I just mean like this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going to be. This is what time I'm going to be home. Rather now we're just like, okay, I'm going to be home. Oh, well, I don't even say anything. I just show up. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, you could help me out if you want, but
Hill has his podcast later, but what is yours?
Be scared to punish your children.
Don't what?
Don't be scared to punish your children.
Oh, don't
Oh,
be scared
boy.
to punish your
hey,
children.
watch those words, buddy.
Okay, repeat this so everyone can hear.
Not like abusing, but like me personally now, like I'll see so many like children, like 6 and below, that'll do something and the parents just like let it slide, like just don't do that. But they
Oh.
learn.
I was
Okay,
thinking,
so
I was thinking
everyone-
more of the high school college route, but yeah, he's
If no-
saying
Yeah.
he's saying punishment is good, just like a timeout or
Don't be
whatever.
scared to
like,
punish your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's good. I think.
I wish I would have
working-
known that. I could have punished him more.
Yeah, I know. He was
I'm
asking
sitting
for
here
more
thinking,
spankings.
wait a minute.
Austin
That's funny
got-
saying that because considering the amount of time, or the ways we weaseled out of getting punished.
Especially that one. You know,
Yeah.
he was probably punished more than.
Okay,
He
so
was very
I've got another one.
resilient towards punishment.
Yeah, air quotes. But I think being in the service industry and being around food and restaurants and all types of people, working in I guess it's fine dining is what it'd be considered.
For sure.
Seeing like the upper class and their parenting, I see a lot of younger kids like 3, 4, 5, 6, just on the phone, just the whole dinner. And I don't think that is. I'm not judging anybody, but this is just like I don't think that's the proper way of doing that because there's a few kids I'm like, oh, I see them, they're engaged. Like there was a 3-year-old the other day that absolutely impressed me just because of how attentive they were and involved with conversation and stuff like that. And I thought it was impressive. So
Did you say something to the parents?
no, but I said something to one of my servers. I was like, that was impressive. He's like, I know. Like
They would appreciate that.
I bet they would. I should say something, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
I think-
the moment,
I think don't let technology absorb them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
say
leave my
that-
phone in the car intentionally a lot of times when I go out to eat now.
Yeah, but you're not a baby.
Well, I still think like
I mean,
I'm just joking.
like, don't force
You know
iPads. Don't force Cocoa Melon in front of your children at dinner. Like,
Yeah.
I think we had a rule with no phones at the dinner table, like whatsoever. And I think that's a very good rule.
I agree.
And I think advice for parents is just like limit technology since it's become so like drowning in our lives.
Well, conversation is amazing. And the only way you get better at it is to do it
practice.
and to be involved in it and to be invited into conversation and what you think and how you hold your own. And so, do you remember when Dad was teaching you guys how to shake hands and look people in the eye? Austin will
No.
remember in
This
just
was
a
a long
second.
time ago.
I don't remember that.
We-
I
A long time
remember
ago.
one thing about like manners and stuff like that. You took us to like this restaurant. It was you, Mom, and it was all three of us. And you're like, "Oh, knives go on the right. K-N-I-F-E. Knife, 5 letters. Right, 5 letters. Like all this stuff like that." And you were like doing like I guess what is it called? Like basically a at-home cotillion, dude.
Yes.
DIY cotillion.
That's right.
Yeah, so you
Totally.
don't do that. I remember that. And that's been pretty good and stuff like that. So
I felt the only way to learn that kind of thing was to experience it because it feels different to be in a fancy environment than me trying to tell you that at home. That's so funny. So you've probably heard this story, but Dad was trying to teach you guys how to introduce yourself. And I used to joke that
Oh, I
y'all
know
were
the story,
allergic
yeah.
to adults and you just oriented around each other. So trying to get you guys to engage was challenging sometimes. And we talked to Austin and Dad said, "Austin, introduce yourself." And Austin looks up and is like, "Hi, my name is Austin Coffey and I have a lot of money."
yeah.
That was
Yes, you-
Well, I mean, as a kid, you just take things very literal. So
Yes,
in his
exactly.
defense,
So he
in his
must have-
4-year-old defense or whatever.
That's right.
Now it'd be, "Hi, I'm Austin Coffey and I have no money."
right.
That is true. Broke college kid. That is so true. He probably had big $4 in his piggy bank
Dad, I
or
need
something
money.
like that.
"Hi, I'm Austin Coffey and I need money."
I love it. Well, any encouragement that you would give people nowadays, and it can come from any point of view, but what would you say to encourage people?
I just do it. Nike said it better than anybody else could. I just do it. Like, you don't even. Growing up, what y'all would say to us is, or Mom always said, is, "The worst they could say is no. The worst they could say is no." That is very true. You'll never get an opportunity unless you put yourself out there and stuff like that. So
Yes.
that's I guess the best advice I could give as a 19-year-old.
I love it. Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot. On that note, I mean, I do feel like sometimes I forget things that I used to know at 19, 20, 21. And one of them, like watching you guys, and it's something that it's time for me to really bring back in my life, is like you guys prioritize fun. And I don't mean that in a way that's like, oh, well, you do. But I mean, like, I feel like that. He collects hobbies as a hobby. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's something that I feel like I have lost some of along the way, and just being like, no, that's important, doing things just because they're fun and because they develop you and develop your positive point of view and your joy for life is huge, and I do get a lot of that, and I see certain small learnings, but they're not small, like fundamental things that I feel like I slide away from sometimes. So I think at 19, you're totally allowed to give advice and encouragement.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final questions from you?
That's it.
That's
We got to
it.
save it for part 2. 3, 4, 5, 6.
I could get out of here now. I'm just kidding.
Absolutely. Brayden, thank you so much. This was so fun.
It was fun.
Awesome.
I'd be on here again if you'll ask.
Awesome.
Maybe we could have a the 3 kids podcast, and let's see how that goes.
That will be
We need to do
interesting.
one at a time, though. First.
Yeah, of course.
And then bring you in, get Liam when he's in town. He'll be in.
Oh, yeah,
all
so
4
we get
of
to hear
us.
about the military.
We could talk to him. Yeah, we need to do it one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
do Liam 1-on-1 too. Yeah.
Yep.
It'd be fun.
Yo, we need to get enough
Austin.
mics or whatever, or just figure out a way.
I've got another
Yeah, we
mic.
have
I've got a
plenty.
couple more mics actually.
Oh,
Yeah. Austin's definitely going to be on at the end of summer, so he needs to start keep taking his
He has
notes.
to work for his spot.
You'll forget
Well,
what you did.
I think Austin just has to talk more.
Well, and that's the cool thing about being on a podcast is you can't not talk.
Yeah,
I
he'll
know.
learn.
So awesome. All right, well, onward and upward.
Adios.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Corporate Caffeine Podcast, please help us help you by subscribing. I also hope you'll find us on social media. You can follow me, Dacia Coffey, and my company, The Marketing Blender, by searching us on your favorite platform or checking out the show notes for the links. We bring this to you because we envision a business world full of meaning, connection, and prosperity for us all. Until next time, onward and upward.